We're back to the Neil Haley Show. My guest today is business strategist Jean Kuhn. Jean, how are you? And today we're going to talk about messaging. Explain first, define messaging in context first.
Well, I think messaging is the piece that so many people get wrong because it's really what you do to help your people. And so you may have heard it called a 30-second or 60-second infomercial, or I call it a marketing message. Maybe you've heard it called a pitch, right? I don't really like to be pitched to, so I don't like a pitch. But it's that message that you put out there so that people understand what you do. And all too often I hear it done wrong almost daily. So if you'd like to talk about that, I'd like to
Yeah,
talk about
that'd
that.
be really, really interesting. Explain some of the reasons why it's not done correctly, messaging.
Well, I think people want to go out there and they want to tell them what they do. And the only reason people go to a networking event is to sell themselves. And so when they get there, they feel like they have to sell themselves. And it's like, ugh. And you don't want to come to people with that energy. You want to come to people and from a place of service. How can I help you? Listen, I know what you need, Neil. I've got the solution to that. That's really how you want to come to people. But you can't assume that they have the solution, that they have the problem and you have the solution if you haven't even had a conversation with them. So all too often people want to solve your problem without telling you and getting you to identify or self-identify as having a problem. So they forget the conversation piece. So we want to make sure that when you're starting with your marketing message, it's, hey, so if I asked you, Neil, what you did, what would you say?
Okay, so you're catching me off guard on this one. Let me just hear some of the ideas first. I mean, I basically, when I try to do it, is explain what I do and how I help people in the messaging. But basically, a service-based business, I have a social media podcasting agency, and I do done for you social media management. So you do not have to do any of the work. It's all done for you, and podcasting done for you as well. So all the things are prepared and ready for you. It's done for you. So that's really kind of more the messaging, but I kind of explain each one of my services if we go through them in a conversation, but I explain how I'm different than somebody else in a way that shows, oh my gosh, a lot of social media agencies want us to do this, this, and this. Well, no, we do it for you. And
Okay,
that's
so
the
now
difference.
ask me what I do.
Okay, what do you do?
I help struggling businesses turn around their business and increase their revenue fast. The fact is that by the time you finish saying all that you wanted to say about your business, people have stopped listening, right? So I just like, listen, if you know that, because here's the thing, if they can't hear you, right? If it's so muddled and they can't hear you, they don't know that you can help them. So
Mhm.
when I say, listen, what was my key thing there? I help struggling businesses
Right.
increase their revenue fast, right? That's all they need to know. And the only thing your marketing message should do is be a place where they can come in and ask for more information. So let me rephrase that. The
Okay.
only thing your marketing message should do is get them to ask a question of you is, can you help me?
Right. Got it. Okay.
And when your message is so long and drawn out and they've forgotten what you said and they don't hear any pain there, they don't really feel like they need you, right? Or they're they're scared. They're scared that you're going to try to sell them something because you just went on and on and on. There's a great book out there called Appreciation Marketing. I think it was written by the guys who started Send Out Cards, and they literally called it people vomit their message all over people, right?
Okay.
When you walk away with somebody because you felt like you've been vomited on, I always have that in my head now, right? Don't vomit your message, Gene. Don't vomit your message.
And what I do in a lot of ways is what if you're talking about messaging when I'm on a call versus another thing. If it's a one point, I just tell them who I am and that's it. And it usually does lead to lots of people reaching out to me.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I basically so it just all depends on the point. But like what you're saying is basically craft the message in a one sentence thing. It's almost like an I am or how I help or what I do in a lot of ways. And that messaging is what gets people to want to know more, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. What happens when you're you have a 60-second infomercial and you go out there and your message literally takes 6 seconds, which is 6 or 8 seconds is what mine takes. Then I spend my time telling them about a story. I tell them a story about what's happened last week or what's going on with a client or a success story that I've had, right? I now tell a story so it doesn't muddle my message and it isn't all about me. I make that story about somebody else like them who would like to have the same result.
So that's part of the messaging. First, having how you help people, and then a story.
Right. Well, no, the first part of the message is what's the pain, right? Struggling businesses. That was the pain for me, right? They're not earning enough cash flow. They're not earning enough revenue. So if I can solve that problem for them, why wouldn't they at least want to have a conversation?
That's
Right.
really that's good stuff. That's
Yeah.
exactly.
And then when you get that opportunity to go a little bit deeper, when you're in front of a group speaking and you only have 30 or 60 seconds, you want to finish it up with some sort of either social proof or a case study or something like that, sharing that information with them. Because again, it shouldn't be about you. Whenever you go to any place that you're speaking and you have to give your message, it's always about the other person, always.
So give us an example of someone else that you've helped teach that messaging a little bit in a way. Yeah.
So I was working with, I loved her. I was working with a dog trainer for my dogs, and she eventually came in and did a workshop with me. And it was about what are the pain, right? What's the pain that people have? My dog's bit, right? I was working with her because my dog bites.
Mhm.
So, or a bit. So she's gone now. But I was working with her, and when we were working together, we needed to identify the pain that her clients were having with their dogs, right? Were they barking too much? Were they humping people? Were they jumping all over? Were they aggressive, right? We really had to identify the problem because listen, I'm a puppy lover, and if I just see a puppy, I don't care what their problem is, I will love them. It doesn't matter what. But if your pet has a problem, you need to have it solved before somebody gets hurt, right? So when her and I were trying to identify her marketing message, solving the problems that her pets had, speaking of dogs, right? Um, she said to me, she says, "Oh, I get it. It's not what you say. It's not what you say about the dogs or anything else. It's what they hear. So if they don't hear the pain that they're suffering from, there's no need for them to look to you for the solution." So a perfect example of this is I was in a networking group and there was a chiropractor in there, and every week he would come in with a different marketing message. It would be like, this week I helped a woman who came in with shoulder pain, and this week somebody came in with tennis elbow, and this week a woman walked in, here's how he said it, a woman hobbled in with debilitating knee pain. I immediately leaned forward. I wanted to hear what the next piece was because I had debilitating knee pain. How could he solve that for me? Just standing was painful, right? So I started seeing him right away, getting a little PT on my knee. I eventually had to have a knee replacement. But my point is when you have a pain, and that was a physical pain, it wasn't necessarily an emotional pain, or it was a physical pain. It works the same, emotionally or physically. When you have a pain and somebody else tells you that they solved it, you want to know more about that.
Totally. It's something that you're like, okay, let's do this. So really, let's go through the strategy of messaging. First, you figure out your pain point for your client.
Yep.
Then you tell how you solve that problem,
Right.
and then tell a story.
I would probably tell the story. That would be how I would tell that's how I would identify the problem that they had in a story on how I help somebody else. I wouldn't tell them that this is what I do. I would tell a story about how I help somebody else with the exact same issue.
Okay, so basically but in your messaging, it does tell the pain point, doesn't it?
It does. It solves, yeah, the story solves a pain point, right?
Okay, solves the pain point, but how you explain how you do it in the story.
Exactly. exactly.
Okay. So I'm understanding those things in so many ways. So it's really important if you are a service-based business that has multiple services to really delve it down into one big bow, that this is the big thing that makes you different and how it solves that business's pain point. And there you go. And tell a story.
Yeah, when you're telling people what you do and you can tell them and you can show them that the pain that they have, or identify the pain that they have, and then you can show them how you've solved it. That's all they want, because they came to the networking meeting exactly like you did. They wanted to sell something, right? You, on the other hand, did not want to buy something because you're there to sell something. But when somebody identifies the pain that you're in, it's so much easier to say, hey, look, this is how I solved that problem. Would you like to hear more about that?
Okay. The best
Right?
place to go to find information on you goes jeankuhn.com, right? Jean Kuhn, right?
Yeah, that's right. JeanKuhn.com.
All right. Appreciate it, Gene.
Thanks. Thanks,
You're
Neil. Have a
listening and
great day.
watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.